Hello and welcome to another quickfire question quiz. This time we're looking at the topic B4 and it's the same as always. Quickfire questions, play with your friends, only this time because we've got quite a short topic, we're only looking at 40 questions. So we should get through it a little bit quicker. Remember, hoping to get fun out of this, don't take it too seriously. Compete with your friends, get on those Zoom chats and see who has the best knowledge, see if you can help each other out and improving your knowledge. So question 1, what type of reaction is photosynthesis in terms of energy transfers? So this is a chemistry word or a word you would normally associate with chemistry, but it's a word that describes the type of reaction that photosynthesis is in terms of energy transfers. Rack your brains. Okay, and the answer is endothermic. So that light energy being absorbed by the chlorophyll for photosynthesis to take place, that's energy entering, so it's endothermic. Question 2. Where in the cell does photosynthesis take place? Nice easy one here. Where in the cell does photosynthesis take place? Not what type of cell, where inside the cell. What subcellular structure does photosynthesis take place in? And the answer is the chloroplasts. Okay, containing that green pigment chlorophyll, which makes leaves green. Question 3. Which two tubes are found in the veins of leaves? Which two tubes are found in the veins of leaves? So we know that we can see the veins in the leaves. Inside there we've got the kind of the transport network of the plant. Two tubes found in leaves. One carries sugar, one carries water and minerals. And the answer is xylem and phloem. Xylem carrying the water and the minerals in one direction, and the phloem taking the sugars all over the place in all directions, okay, by the process translocation. And question 4. What two things are needed for photosynthesis but are not reactants? So when we think of a chemical equation, we see the reactants on the left of the arrow, we see the products on the right of the arrow. These two things are needed for photosynthesis to occur, but they're not reactants. Okay, and the answer is light and chlorophyll. Okay, the light is absorbed by the chlorophyll, which allows photosynthesis to work. I refer to it as like the oven. So our reactants are our cake mix, and the product is our finished cake. And without that oven, without the light and the chlorophyll, the cake won't bake. So that's the way I look at it. Question 5. What is the chemical formula of glucose? What is the chemical formula of glucose? Tricky one, it's the big molecule. 3 different elements. Think about the number of each atom. Number of atoms of each element, I should say. And the answer is C6H12O6. Notice how the numbers are lower. Okay, they're not up high, they must be low. It's like a 6 sandwich. We've got the C6 on the outside, we've got the O6 on the outside, and then sum them together, you've got the 12 in the middle. Okay, C6H12O6. Try and embed that one into your memory. Question 6. What is the name of a leaf with white or yellow edges, and what is missing from these areas? Okay, so think of a leaf like a geranium, not all geraniums, but some of them, and they've got these white or yellow patches on the leaves. What's missing from those areas? 2 marker really, this one. And the answer is, it's a variegated leaf. Okay, so where there's green patches and then there's patches that are white or yellow, we call it a variegated leaf. And what's missing from those areas is chlorophyll. Okay, so it's a variegated leaf and it's lacking chlorophyll. That means that those parts of the leaf where there is no chlorophyll, there will be no photosynthesis. So there's going to be a slower growth rate of this plant because it's not photosynthesizing at a as fast rate as a same leaf that is not variegated. same size leaf that's not variegated. Okay, question 7. What is a better word for the best light intensity? Okay, so a better word for best. So this is where we're looking at our graphs for photosynthesis, and we say this is the best light intensity is whatever it might be. What's a better word than best? And the answer is optimum. So we might say it's the optimum light intensity. And incidentally, when the light intensity reaches its optimum, light intensity is no longer a limiting factor. Something else will be the limiting factor. Okay, so once at the optimum, no longer a limiting factor. Question 8. Why do we use pondweed to investigate the rate of photosynthesis? So if you remember that required practical, we put the pondweed in the water to investigate how fast that rate of photosynthesis is, and we can then change lots of variables and compare that rate of photosynthesis. But why do we use pondweed? Why not use an apple tree or a spider plant? Why is it pondweed? And the answer is because it lives underwater and we can see those oxygen bubbles as they're being produced. So if you remember that animation or the model video that we used, the simulator video there, we could see those bubbles, we can count those bubbles as they come off the pondweed because it's under the water. Okay. Question 9. What can plants do with the glucose they make in photosynthesis? What can plants do with the glucose they make in photosynthesis? Now you'll remember that I came up with this way of remembering it, which is scarf. The examiner will not know what scarf is. You cannot just say scarf. But scarf is your helpful reminder in what each of those 5 uses of the glucose are. So plant does the photosynthesis, as a result of that makes glucose. What happens to that glucose? Okay, quite a long answer for this one. If you need extra time, then pause now. And the answer is S is for starch. So some of it is converted into larger molecules, insoluble molecules called starch. Some of it is used to make cellulose, which is used to strengthen the cell wall. Some of it is used to make amino acids, which then build up into proteins and are used for growth. Some of it is used in the reverse of photosynthesis for respiration, which releases energy. And some of it is stored as fats and oils. Okay, so that's how we remember it, scarf. And you can kind of list them out in your hand. Go, okay, right, the S, starch, C, cellulose, okay? So hopefully that will be a way that you can remember the uses of glucose in a plant. Real favourite with the exam people, don't know why, but they do like that question, so they might tell you one and expect you to come up with the other 4. Moving on to question 10. What would you use a potometer to investigate? So a potometer is a piece of equipment. It's used with plants, okay, but what specific feature of plants would we use it to investigate? And the answer is transpiration in plants. So it's about water loss from the leaves. So we could have the plant in a cold environment and look at how much water is lost, and there's a bubble in the potometer that will move. We can see how far it's moved, and then we could create warmer conditions and then do the same comparison for a fixed period of time, maybe an hour or 10 hours or whatever it is we've decided to use. Okay, question 11. What chemical would you use to test for the presence of starch in a plant? What chemical would you use to test for the presence of starch in a plant? It's the same chemical that we use to test for starch in food testing. Nice, easy one, let's hope. And the answer is iodine solution. Okay, iodine solution. I'm not going to tell you colours because those questions are on their way. Question 12. What colour will iodine solution be when testing a leaf from a plant in the dark? So the plant has been stored in the dark for a good few hours, okay, and then we do the test where we put the iodine on the leaf. What colour will that iodine solution be? And the answer is, actually I'm going to pause a minute because I think this one takes a bit of thinking. So just think it through. What's happened to the plant in the dark? Starch, no starch. Okay, make that decision, and then what colour will the iodine be as a result of that? The answer is orange. There'll be no change in the colour of the iodine solution as the starch has all been used up. In the dark, it couldn't photosynthesize. It used that starch store, broke it down into glucose, and then used it up for all of those processes that it does. And therefore, when we test to see if there's any starch, there isn't, so the iodine solution stays orange. Okay, question 13. What is the specific name of the plant leaf cells that do most photosynthesis? Okay, so the specific cells inside the leaf where we see most photosynthesis occur. And it's a question that I've had on previous quickfire question quiz. And that's because people forget the word all the time. Some people right now are probably kicking themselves. Let's have a little think. Okay, and the answer is, it's the palisade cells. Okay, that row of cells look like bricks up on end, filled with chloroplasts, loads of photosynthesis. Question 14. Which type of respiration, so it's a 50-50 here, involves the use of oxygen? Nice one to lead us into respiration. Which type of respiration involves the use of oxygen? And the answer is aerobic. Aerobic respiration. Think of aero, the chocolate, well, it is a bar sometimes, isn't it? But it's also aero bubbles. Think of the spelling of that when you write aerobic, because a lot of people spell that incorrectly. So think about chocolate and you will get the aerobic respiration spelt correctly, let's hope. And question 15. Which type of respiration only releases a small amount of energy? So this one is not so efficient, okay? Only releases a small amount of energy. It's not as efficient as the other type of respiration. Which one am I describing? And the answer is anaerobic. Again, check your spelling, okay? So anaerobic is the one without oxygen. It's very inefficient, doesn't release as much energy. Be really careful. Respiration does not produce energy. It does not create energy. It does not make energy. It only releases energy, and that energy is found inside the glucose. Respiration is the way of getting the energy out of the glucose, but doesn't produce it, just releases it from that store. Okay, question 16. What substance moves through the phloem? Now I've said this already, moves in lots of different directions. What substance moves through the phloem? Moves by translocation, transporting it to different locations. And the answer is sugar. Sugar flows through the phloem. Question 17. Where in the cell does respiration take place? It's that really long word that everybody goes, what is it? What is it? Yep, and then they get it. Okay. Where in the cell specifically does respiration, whether it's aerobic or anaerobic, take place? And the answer is the mitochondria. The mitochondria. Okay. Question 18. What two changes happen to breathing rate during exercise? What two changes happen to breathing rate during exercise? We're talking about the intensity of breathing, and we're talking about the kind of depth of breathing. Okay, and the answer is increased rate of breathing, so faster breaths, more breaths per minute, and increased depth of breathing, so taking in bigger breaths each time to take in more oxygen. Okay, question 19. What colour will iodine solution go in the presence of starch? We've talked about iodine already. What colour will it go if there is starch present? And the answer is blue-black. Either of those words on their own or together is a perfect answer. Question 20. What is the product of anaerobic respiration in muscle cells? What is the product, so it's just one product, of anaerobic respiration in muscle cells? This is the one when we're doing lots of exercise. We go from aerobic respiration into anaerobic, and there's one product, causes pain in the muscles. And the answer is lactic acid. Okay, it's that lactic acid that builds up in the muscles. Question 21. What happens to heart rate during exercise and why? What happens to heart rate during exercise and, more importantly, why? This could be a longer answer. Okay, the answer is heart rate increases, and this is, so it's faster heart rate, to move more oxygen to the body cells. Why do we do that? Because the rate of respiration has increased. Why has that increased? Because we need to provide more energy to cells. So you can go the reverse of that. Okay, so if we exercise, then we use more energy, therefore we need a faster rate of respiration, therefore we need to get more oxygen to the cells. So you can go forwards, you can go backwards with this explanation, either way. Nice to get all those steps in though. Okay, I'll leave that there for a second just to process. So heart rate increases to take the oxygen to the cells for respiration so that we can get more energy to those cells because they're using it at a faster rate. Excellent. Okay, question 22. What is recovery time? What is recovery time? Okay, the answer is the amount of time it takes for the heart rate to return to resting after exercise. Okay, so we've got our resting heart rate or our resting pulse rate, and then we do our exercise, and then when we stopped exercising, our heart rate returns back to that resting rate. And it's the amount of time it takes for that to occur. So it could be 2 minutes, it could be a minute, it could be 3 minutes. The shorter the recovery time, the greater your fitness. Question 23. What are the 3 indicators of fitness? So we look at that graph. We did a graph where we compared our fitness to our friend's fitness, and then we looked at 3 indicators of fitness from that graph to say, I'm fitter than this person because, or I might be fitter on 2 counts and they might be fitter on 1. Whatever it is, we compared 3 indicators of fitness from those graphs. And the answer is, there's going to be 3 here obviously. 1, low resting heart rate. So while we're just sitting, heart rate is low. 2, low heart rate when exercising. Now it's important to say here that the exercise needs to be the same exercise done for the same amount of time at the same intensity. Otherwise, how can you compare your heart rate with somebody else's? And the 3rd indicator is that quick recovery time. So getting our heart rate back down to resting as quickly as possible after exercise is an indicator of fitness. Question 24. Why is breathing rate still high after exercise? Why is breathing rate still high after exercise? So I've just finished exercising and my heart rate, my breathing rate is still quite high. Why is my breathing rate high? What am I doing? What am I gaining? What am I getting rid of? And the answer is to gain more oxygen, to remove the lactic acid, which we call oxygen debt. It's also, we can have in there as an answer, to remove carbon dioxide and breathing out all of that carbon dioxide that came about from aerobic respiration. Okay, but I've got a fast breathing rate to get as much oxygen into the body as possible to break down all of that lactic acid, which we call the oxygen debt. Question 25. What is the sum of all reactions inside the body called? So one word answer. What is the sum of all reactions inside the body called? And the answer is metabolism. So your metabolic rate is how quickly all those reactions inside your body take place. Question 26. How would we describe muscles that have been used so much they no longer work efficiently? So you could describe your muscles as being this, or you could even describe your whole body as being this. You've done so much exercise that your muscles no longer work efficiently. And the answer is fatigued. Okay, so our muscles are fatigued. Question 27. What are the products of anaerobic respiration in yeast? 2 products. Okay, randomly tag this on the end of the topic. What are the products of anaerobic respiration in yeast? Used in the baking and the brewing industries. Okay, the answer is ethanol and carbon dioxide. Ethanol and carbon dioxide. Question 28. What is the name of the chemical that makes leaves green? Nice quick one, this one. What is the name of the chemical that makes leaves green? So we're kind of freestyling all over the topic now. We've done the topic in order and now we're kind of scanning around all over the place. What is the name of the chemical that makes leaves green? And it is, of course, chlorophyll. Okay, I will not accept chloroplast here because that is not a chemical. Chlorophyll is found inside the subcellular structure, that is the chloroplast. Okay, question 29. When light is no longer a limiting factor of photosynthesis, what else could be? When light is no longer a limiting factor of photosynthesis, what else could be? I.e., tell me some more limiting factors of photosynthesis. Okay, answers. Could be temperature. Temperature affects rate of photosynthesis. Could be carbon dioxide, which can be pumped into a greenhouse. It could be the amount of chlorophyll, so it goes back to those variegated leaves. If you've got a variegated leaf, slower rate of photosynthesis than if you've got a non-variegated leaf. Okay, question 30. What will happen to the concentration of oxygen in a greenhouse at night? Tricky one. Think through the process again. What do I know is happening at night? Is there photosynthesis? Is there respiration? Which one's greater? Which one produces oxygen? Will it be high? Will it be low? So what will happen to the concentration of oxygen in a greenhouse at night? Answer is, it would decrease. And the reason for this is that photosynthesis has stopped because there's no light, but the plant is still respiring, which means it's using up the oxygen because oxygen is used in respiration. You must remember that plants still respire, they're living things, they all respire. Uses up the oxygen, therefore the levels will decrease. And then in the daytime, photosynthesis is at a greater rate, so therefore we see an increase in the oxygen levels. Question 31. What is the movement of water and minerals through the xylem called? We've had this already. Okay, what is the movement of water and minerals through the xylem called? We said that the phloem move the sugar by the process of translocation. So what's water and minerals? Hopefully you're shouting it out. And the answer is transpiration. Question 32. When do cells go into anaerobic respiration? So most of our cells, most of the time, are in aerobic respiration. What causes them to go into anaerobic respiration? And the answer is when there's not enough oxygen. And when does that happen? Happens during exercise. When we're using those muscles more, they use up all the oxygen. Oxygen can't get to the cells quickly enough, so we go into anaerobic respiration, or those cells go into anaerobic respiration. Question 33. Where does glucose enter the bloodstream? So glucose goes through the digestive system. Which organ and which part of that organ does the glucose enter the bloodstream? Bit of a crossover one there from B2. And the answer is through the villi of the small intestine. Small intestine's fine. It's those villi that give the small intestine a larger surface area, and that's where the glucose goes into the bloodstream. Question 34. How do we lose excess water from the body? 3 methods. How do we lose excess water from the body? 3 different methods. Okay, the answer is, or the answers are, urine, sweat, breathing. Breathing's a funny one, but if you breathe in a window, you can see that water, that moisture that's come out of your breath, okay? Question 35. What do we use the energy released from respiration for in the body? So we do respiration, which releases energy from the glucose that we've eaten, and there are 3 uses for it in the body. This comes directly from the course content. Give you a second to think. And the answer is building proteins, maintaining body temperature, and movement. That's straight from the course content, so those are the ones to remember. I'm sure we could break them down into lots of different processes, but those are the ones we need to remember. Question 36. What is the word equation for anaerobic respiration in muscle cells? What is the word equation for anaerobic respiration in muscle cells? I'll give you a clue. There's 1 reactant and there's 1 product. And the answer is glucose makes lactic acid. So glucose makes lactic acid. Question 37. What is anaerobic respiration in yeast known as in the brewing industry? What is anaerobic respiration in yeast known as in the brewing industry? 1-word answer. And the answer is fermentation. It's called fermentation. Question 38. How do we measure the rate of anaerobic respiration in yeast? How do we measure the rate of anaerobic respiration in yeast? We usually look at how quickly a product is made or how quickly a reactant is used up. What did we do in this particular experiment? And the answer is by collecting and measuring the volume of carbon dioxide produced. And that was produced by the yeast. So lots of carbon dioxide produced. We knew that there was a fast rate of anaerobic respiration, small amount produced, slow rate of anaerobic respiration. Question 39. How does yeast help in bread making? How does yeast help in bread making? And the answer is the carbon dioxide produced makes the bread rise. Carbon dioxide produced makes bread rise. Final question, question 40. Why is more water taken up by a plant on a hot day? So more water goes in through the roots on a hot day in a plant. Why? Why is more water taken up by a plant on a hot day? Think it through. And the answer is more evaporation through transpiration. You could call that evapotranspiration if you want to, of water through the stomata. And the stomata are surrounded by those guard cells. So more water escapes from the leaf through the stomata, and therefore because the water moves through the xylem like a straw, as soon as some water is released, more water is drawn up through the roots. So more water will be drawn up through the roots on a hot day as more water is being evaporated. And that's the end of our B4 quickfire question quiz. If you enjoyed it, then please subscribe. I hope you had some fun. Hope it was enjoyable for you and you challenged your friends with your answers. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.